The morning after our wedding was supposed to be peaceful. I had imagined waking up next to my new wife, sipping coffee together, laughing over how amazing the day before had been. Instead, I woke up to the smell of coffee, yes, but also to the sight of a neatly folded piece of paper on my nightstand. In bold letters, it read, "Wife's Rules." At first, I chuckled. I thought it was a joke, a quirky gesture to mark the beginning of our married life. But as I started reading, the smile faded from my face. There were 12 rules, each written with bullet points, underlined, and explained in meticulous detail. Things like no video games on weekdays, toilet seat must always remain down, and every Friday is mandatory date night, no excuses, even if there's a football game. I blinked at the list. Was this some sort of prank, a test? I walked into the kitchen, list in hand. Sarah, my wife, was happily making pancakes, humming a tune. I raised an eyebrow. So ... rules? I asked. She turned around, smiled innocently, and said, "Marriage is a partnership, but every ship needs a captain." She winked. I wasn't sure if I should be amused or alarmed. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Sarah. She's smart, beautiful, and incredibly organized. I knew she was the type to plan things out. I just didn't expect our marriage to come with a manual. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "Don't worry, honey, you'll get used to it." I smiled back, but in my head, a light bulb switched on. Later that afternoon, while she was out running errands, I sat down with a blank sheet of paper. If she could have rules, then so could I. It only seemed fair. I titled mine, "Husband's Rules." My list had only 6 items, but each one came with a bit of humor and maybe a touch of rebellion. Football Sundays are sacred, I wrote. No rom-coms during playoff season, ever. I taped my list to the fridge right next to hers. When she came home, she noticed it immediately. Her eyebrows shot up as she read it. Then she turned to look at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "You made a list too?" she asked, sounding somewhere between amused and offended. "Of course," I replied casually. "Every ship may need a captain, but even captains answer to the crew." She burst out laughing. I wasn't sure if she was laughing with me or at me, but I figured laughter was better than silence or a fight. Over dinner, we ended up reading both lists out loud. We argued over a few rules, negotiated some others, and even combined a few into joint agreements. Date night every Friday unless there's a playoff game became the compromise. No video games on weekdays unless it's co-op and we play together. By the time dessert rolled around, our lists were no longer rules, but more like guidelines. We realized that we'd both come into the marriage trying to take control in our own way. She wanted to make sure things didn't fall apart. I wanted to make sure I didn't lose myself. Neither of us was wrong, we just needed to meet halfway. That night, we replaced the 2 lists with a new one titled, "Our Rules." There were only 5 items, and each one started with "we will" instead of "you must" or "no." It felt less like a set of restrictions and more like a promise. The kind of promise that made our marriage feel more like a team and less like a battlefield. And though I still leave the toilet seat up sometimes, and she still forgets that Sunday isn't the best time to reorganize the living room, we laugh more than we argue. In the end, it wasn't about who had more rules. It was about learning how to write them together.